Hey class, welcome to 10.4, the Pythagorean theorem. And so the theorem might be a strange word for you, but it's actually the words from a man's last name who found that all the sides of a triangle, of a right triangle, when you use this theorem and apply it to the triangle, you can figure out all the sides of a right triangle without having to measure them. And if you don't know any of the sides of the triangle, then you can't really use this to figure it out. But if you know two sides of triangle, then you can figure out the third side. Because we're going to touch on this, just give you like a basic instructions in your geometry class or trigonometry class. More advanced class that would go a little bit more in depth than what we're going to talk about today. So there's two keywords, legs and hypotenuse. So you probably don't know what these words are, but I mean, I'll explain it to you. So legs is the sides of a right triangle, the ones that are connected with the 90-degree angle. So I'll show you really quick. So you can see here. So this is the 90-degree. So the legs are this part of the triangle and this part of the triangle. So they're always with or next to the 90-degree angle. Those are the legs. Okay. So the hypotenuse, that's always going to be the longest side of the triangle. So you should see right here. Always the longest side. So any triangle where it has the longest side, that's going to be the hypotenuse. So then always opposite. It's also always opposite of the 90-degree angle. So you can see right here. It's right there. So the legs and the hypotenuse, and those create the triangle. Okay, so these are connected with things in the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to write it out for you. So it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a squared plus b squared. Remember, a and b are the legs. It really doesn't matter which one you label a and b. They can mix and match. Doesn't matter. But a and b are the legs. And then square them and then add them. And then c is the hypotenuse, remember. That also squared. Okay. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So remember, a, b, and c, a and b are the legs, and then c is the hypotenuse, and all of them squared. Okay. Let's go on to the next part. So now we're going to have to find x. So see that it's a 90-degree triangle. So the hypotenuse is where it's going to be right there, so it's x. It's going to be what we're trying to find. So remember, always remember the formula. So that's going to be c squared. Let's go to the next one. So I'm just going to write it in the formula. Okay. So now a, we'll just pick whichever one we want. So let's do 6. So, and then b will do 15. It really doesn't matter which one you have, b, a, or b, as long as it's the legs that you have doing that. So we'll do 6 squared plus 15 squared equals c squared. So 6 squared is 36, plus 15 squared is 225, equals c squared. So just add those together now. So 261 equals c squared. So now we need to find c. So how do you find c? So it's c squared. So remember, the opposite of squaring, when you go, is a square root. Square root. So in order to figure out how to reverse a square, you have to square root it. So we have to square root both sides. So we'll square root the c squared and we'll square root the 261. So the square root cancels out the squaring. So that equals just c. So you can use your calculator to figure this out. So it's about 16.15 there. So that's c. And that's our x. So we figured out that we have 6, 15, and then our long side is about 16.15. So then let's go down to the next one. So it's important to look at A and B, and remember that C is always opposite of the 90 degrees. So we can see that 11 is going to be our hypotenuse, and that's our C. So we'll put 11 squared. Now A and B, it really doesn't matter which one you pick, so we'll just have x be A and 9 be B. So I'm going to put them into our equation. So we'll do x squared plus b 9 squared. Now 11 squared is 121. 9 squared is 81. Oh, wait. Sorry, I put an equal sign instead of a plus sign. Let me fix that. Plus. Okay, and then x squared. So remember, everything's opposite. We have to get rid of the squaring, but first we'll subtract. So we're going to subtract 81 from both sides. So it'll be x squared, get rid of that, equals 40. So x squared equals 40. So remember, in order to get rid of a square, we have to square root both sides of the equation. So we're going to square root x squared, so that cancels that out, and then we'll square root 40. So x equals, again, you could probably use a calculator. It doesn't have a perfect square. Like a perfect square would be where when you square root a number, it becomes a whole number. So we're going to use a calculator because we're going to get a decimal with this. So it's going to be 6.3. 32. So that's going to be our x. So that's going to be that side, that leg. Okay. So if you practice this and figure out everything, I hope that everything I've said so far is clear. So let's put another one. Okay, so Damon is locked out of his house with the only open window on the second floor, 12 feet above the ground. He needs to borrow a ladder from his neighbor, and he must place the ladder 5 feet from the house to avoid the bushes. What is the length of the ladder? What length of the ladder does Damon need? So you can see the triangle in the picture there, and you can see it visually in your mind when you're thinking about the problem. You can see all that. And so you can see the 90-degree angle is going to be from the side of the house and the ground. And so then the ladder is our hypotenuse. So we're going to put that as x. So remember, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And so we'll have a be the 5 feet, b is 12 feet, and c we don't know yet. So we're going to have that be x. So 5 squared is 25, plus 12 squared is 144, equals x squared, because we don't know. So 25 plus 144 is 169. And then, again, we still don't know what our x squared is. So now, in order to cancel out the squaring, we need to square root everything. So we're going to square root both sides to cancel that out, and then square root our 169. So x equals 13. So that'll be option number C, or letter C. Alright? So that's an example of applying the a squared plus b squared equals c squared Pythagorean theorem to a word problem. It always has to have a right triangle, and it's always going to involve you having to do some square rooting, so you need to work on getting comfortable with squaring and square rooting, because you're always going to have to use that in these problems. So when you first look at a problem, you need to figure out where your A, B, and C are going to be, because a lot of times people will mix up and put C, their hypotenuse, on the wrong side. So remember, no matter which way your triangle is facing, the hypotenuse is always going to be opposite of the 90 degrees. And that's going to be your C. Okay? I hope that all of this is really clear, and with some practice I know that you all are going to get a lot better with this. So, alright, that's it for today.